So today we'll discuss the others. The second step is the literature review. So you see, when we are discussing about the steps of research methodology, I was telling about it, and now you see, while we are writing the research proposal, the literature review is very important. Because unless and until you do an extensive literature review, you will not able to give a justice to your proposal and also to your writings. You see, what I told from the very beginning, to find a problem, to select a problem, you should go for an extensive literature review. But at the same time, while you are going the extensive literature review in pre kind of selecting the problem, you are going with a very wider kind of literature review. But after selecting a problem, whenever you are going for your literature review, that means you are going for more specific way here. Here, you have already selected a particular point which we were discussing about the gender and all last class. You selected a study that the gender discrimination and the role of gender and gender empowerment, specifically in the context of rural education sector, we are discussing. See here, you have to be very specifically now start reading relating to gender and education, because before selecting the problem, your broad area of interest was gender, and there are lots of issues which are relating to the gender, but after reading some of the issues from the gender perspective, you found that the major issues pertaining here is the gender and education. Then you selected the topic that is gender and education, and now you are going to more specific, that is gender and education. So now here there is no necessity of reading the gender as a whole, rather you read the textbook on gender in general, but while going to the literature review, you should be more specific to the gender and education. It is not that you have to read gender and resource management, gender and disaster risk reduction, or gender and health. So all these things are not needed here. Only you have to be more specific to the gender and education. So while you are doing the literature review relating to gender and education, then you should be more specific that what kind of education you are looking into. In your problem, you should usually also very careful. And while doing the literature review, you look into the gender and education as a more specifically for the literature review. But you should be very careful the gender and education in what sense, whether it is primary education, higher education, or technical education. So that should be more specific. That because you cannot include gender as a whole in the context of education, because there are different segments of the education. Either you have to be concentrated on gender and primary education, gender and higher education, gender and technical education. So you should, or professional education, what gender and professional education, which includes the technical, non-technical, whatever, all professional courses will include. So once you are very specific to your problem, very specific to your topic, there you can focus specifically on that and do the literature review accordingly. Then while doing the literature review, you ask what to do. I'm telling you all the techniques which you remember. Literature review is not so very easy task. It is not a very easy task. So what you can do, you ask this. What you have to do is in literature review. First, you search the materials. Go to the library. Search the material, gender and education. You first list it out. What is the material you got? Books, articles from the library. Then online you search gender and education. By putting it in Google, you search the material, gender and education. And once you got all the material, gender and education, you listed out the references. From the very beginning, you listed out the references. Very clear cut. You listed out the references. You mentioned the book name. You there are different mechanisms to write the literature reviews and all. So what you can do there, you should be very much kind of careful that how to write the literature review. So there you should be very, you have to list out the references. In that, what you can do, you mention the all the articles in one column, and then you mention all the kind of this uh, um, this books and textbook in another column. So there you listed out all the things in a very proper way. Through that, what will happen? You will not face any problem at the end, because see, the major problem is that when you will go for finalizing your reports, there you have to write the kind of all the references. But the major problem we faced during the time that we miss some of our kind of these references at the end, because we never listed out it properly. So that's why it is highly essential that you should be very much careful that while listing out the references, and it should be very carefully. If it is article, the journal's name, the volumes, the issues, then pages, all these things should be very clearly mentioned. So once you listed out all your references, you collect as much as reference you can collect and listed out all the references. So there, I'm not telling you photocopy everything now from the very beginning. If it is a soft copy of articles, you store it in your computer or laptop. And if it is hard copy, you list it out from the library. Then what you can do, you then make a systematic screening of it. Means you are dealing with primary education, suppose you listed out that means how to go for all this, which is based on the primary education. So there you can make a separate list, that is called the screening of the all this means all these references. So there, what you can do, you listed out separately the primary education dot. Then you start with doing your literature review. Picked up one on articles, picked up one on textbooks, read thoroughly, and while reading the articles or the textbook, whatever, you do the things from a very systematic way. You means you while reading, you read very critically, and while writing, you write in a very critical the literature review. Means the major focus is where the study held, what are the methodology they adopted, and what exactly the outcome they got from that study. That should be a literature review. And once you made the literature review, and then you arranged it in a proper way. First, you have to look into in a very international way that how the different countries have have promoted or have discriminated the gender-based education, specifically in the primary education. From international level, come to the national level, then come to your state level where you are making the study, then come to your area specific. If you have found that there are some studies being held in that locality and all, so then only you can uh, you find uh, you can give the justice to the literature review. So there, while you will come to the very specific to your location, there also you find out that if somebody has already done some kind of study relating to this in your particular location, then you have to focus on that also. And while doing the literature review, you can divide it into different segments. It is not that only exclusively in a kind of continuous mode it will do. You can divide it the primary education and gender in the sense linking that literacy as a factor of literacy of the parents, the, the, the poverty and the primary education. You can look into the cultural philosophy and then the primary education of the gender and primary education. So what I'm telling here, you see, so there means uh, means you have to be very careful in finding out the different variables, which only until you find the different kind of variables there, so you cannot make a proper literature review. So you try to find out as much as variables, looking into the reading the different articles, picking up, and then how you pick up those articles. You first uh, both you have already listed articles. You are either you are going through offline in the library and picking up journals and books, or you are going through online. What you can do, you look at the first title, then you read the abstract. If you find okay, these are not much relevant, you can keep it as a different category, that you find out the first priority articles. And while doing the literature review, you while reading the articles, there also you marked in the pencil that this aspect will help you in developing certain questionnaire. This aspect will help me in interpreting my the data. This aspect can be highlighted in my literature review in relating to the while critically writing the literature review. So through that, what you can do, and how you will get more references. If you picked up one very relevant articles relating to your study, then you just check their references, and from their references you will get lots of references, which will be easy for you to search. It is not that you have to only search, because if you picked up 5 very good articles relating to the primary education and gender, you can see their references, and from their references it will be easy to search more and more articles. You picked up again another articles from their references, again you once you get that article, again you look into their references, what are the articles they follow. So that what will happen, you will get an extensive idea of a particular topic, and you will get a kind of complete knowledge that what exactly is happening throughout the globe relating to gender and primary education. And you will also you do the also policy review, that policy and primary education and gender and primary education, so that you will come to understand what are the different countries, different states even within the country has done any kind of policy or any kind of guidelines they have drawn towards the promoting the primary education of the genders. So that you have to do. Anybody any doubt on this? Otherwise, then we'll move to the second one. Anybody any question on this? Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Anybody any?
No, sir. I have no.
So you, now you can write the literature review and all.
Yes, sir.
So that is not a problem. Once you people can easily write. Okay. You can easily write a literature review. So remember the methods, what you have to do. So otherwise you will be in trouble at the last moment. Okay. So this then the third stage is called statement of the problem. And now once your literature review is over, you have to be very careful that how to write the statement of the problem. Then sometimes you get confused, sir. We have already, while writing the proposal, we have already selected the problem. Then what is the necessity of writing the problem here? You see, while writing the proposal, you are not writing in the first line that selection of the problem. What you are doing there in the first step, you are writing an introduction of a proposal. Because if you are looking into the gender and primary education, your proposal should start from the gender in general, then the gender, how gender are being excluded, specifically in the education context, and how the lots of discrimination is continuing, even if the lots of policy is being implemented. Then you exclusively come down to the primary education. If it is a title is primary education, you like look into the gender and primary education. There you just highlighted that the present study is going to focus on this issues. You are just raising the issues there. Then you are going to the literature review. Then in the statement of the problem, you are clear cut giving a description that though there are lots of people have done the study on means on gender and private education, but there means there you have to argue that why that is rational behind why you are choosing this topic, why you are choosing this problem. You have to rationally, you have to logically justify your problem. So there you have to logically justify a problem and you have to write the why you have selected and what is the uniqueness of your problem. That is your statement of the problem, which where you have to write the uniqueness also. Because you can write, yes, though there are lots of studies being done on specifically gender and education, but from your literature, it is not from me, I don't know, because I have not worked on gender and education. So that's what I'm telling. There you can look into that. Yes, though there are lots of studies being held, but most of them has focused from this perspective, and my study will focus on this perspective. And though there are lots of studies being done from gender and education, but most of the study has focused on higher education and all. They are not focused on primary education, and even if they are focused, they are not focused. And again, you can make a more kind of specific, taking gender and primary education, a study on marginal communities, or study on Dalit communities, a study on minorities, a study on tribal communities. Then there you can go. But okay, in general they have taken, but they have not focused on specifically on gender and of primary education relating to tribal or relating to marginal community, relating to minority, or relating to Dalits, whatever you are based on your objective and your title level study. So you have to argue there this is uniqueness of your study, and there you can raise some of the research question. Does the society, does the poverty has uh, made has discouraged the um, gender equality based education in our society? Does the cultural resistance have impact on this gender equality based primary education? So, or there are certain kind of family constant which is compelled. So, like that, what you can do, you can pick up a certain kind of research question. You can raise some research question there. Then, what you can do? The next is you have to go for a kind of say, objective of research. The fourth step is objective of research. And what is the objective of research? You see, once you do the literature review, once you finalize, select your problem, once you raise certain kind of research question there, your objective is more specific. Your research question is more general. But here you are going to more specifically that these are my specific objective on which the entire research is going to focus. So there you have to be very much careful. You have to write it very carefully. You write based on your objective, your problem, you finalize your objective. You write 3-4 objectives and which you have to focus more rigorously, which you have to focus more rigorously, which you have to give emphasis on more specifically. So there what you can do here, once your objective is finalized, you have to be very careful that while finalizing your objective, each objective you picked up, and there you can think that what are the variables each objective is carrying. Then you can be very careful for collecting the information for each variable. What are the methodology I have to be adopt, and how I will proceed, because that should be in your mind from the very beginning also. Because generally what happens, you simply specifically mention your objective, but without thinking that whether this will be easy to collect the information, whether I can got the data or not. Suppose you are doing an MA project, so which is very limited time you will get, but if you keep 5-6 objective, having more anxious in your mind that okay, I will collect, I will write very good thesis and all, but it will be not possible because you may get only 1 month for the field work during the December vacation in the next year. So then what will you, but your objective, if you keep 6-7 objective, so then what at the end you may not able to collect the data for the 2 objective, it will be invalid. You cannot justify your argument. so you will not get your own satisfaction also. So that's why you should be very much careful while selecting the objective. And while selecting the objective also, you should be very careful what are the variables are there within the objective and what are the methodology you are going to adopt for collecting the information. All these things should be very clear from the very beginning so that you can give justice to that. And once your objective is finalized and within the objective your variables are finalized, you can again go back to your literature review and you can think of little strengthening your literature review. Means I am not telling that after objective you will write your literature review. Whatever literature review you have written, from your objective again you can go to the literature review, and literature review is a continuous process unless so it's at the time generally people start doing the literature review from the beginning, and also they end the literature review while at the submission of kind of thesis also. So what I'm telling, after finalizing the objective, you looked into that, is there anything I missed relating to my objective in the literature review? So that you can rectify and you can incorporate more and more information, more and according to your variables also you do more and more literature review, because the more literature review you do, that will help you in strengthening your questionnaire, strengthening your interview schedule. Because unless and until you do all these kind of things, so you will not get a kind of proper idea of doing the research. So once all these things are analyzed, so then after objective you should go for a theoretical framework or conceptual framework. Either you should go a conceptual framework, what are the concepts you are using, how you are using, you can give a new diagram based on your objective of your research. This will be my diagram and I am going to explore so and so from this by as per the diagram you can justify this is my diagram and this is my movement of my research and this is my ultimate outcome to reach, and by giving a picturization you can justify that by throwing by I will go through this step and do the my research. So and if you are using certain kind of theories based on your academic background, based on a disciplinary background, you have to use lots of theories. And if you feel that okay, there are lots of feminist theory, there are lots of gender related theory which you want to focus relating to the primary education, because while doing the literature review you are also doing review of lots of theories relating to your study, and based on your academic knowledge you can drag lots of theory and link to here, and there you have to write all these theories in brief, that these are the theories which you are going to look in the light of this primary education and gender. So once your conceptual framework everything is ready, so there you move to the very crucial point, that is the methodology, which is very very important. Are you clear till now? Statement of the problem, objective, conceptual framework or theoretical framework. Anybody any doubt now on this?
No, sir.
Hmm? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello, hello, sir.
Tell.
Sir, the conceptual framework is not too much clear to me, sir.
Okay, you want more information on what is conceptual framework. Okay. So you see, I was telling you that this conceptual framework actually, uh, you see, generally either you use conceptual framework or theoretical framework. When we are doing any kind of research, generally what happens, we uh, do kind of things that uh, while doing the literature review, you got an idea that these are the things which is highly relevant to your research. And sometimes what happens while you do the literature review, you will find that there are lots of people who have used lots of diagrams, lots of conceptual framework they have used. Either you can draw somebody's conceptual framework cited here and tell that I am going to test this conceptual framework in my study here. Otherwise, you can develop your own conceptual framework. Generally, we try taking the help of other conceptual framework, we try to give a citation that we have taken some part of conceptual framework from this. Then you modify that conceptual framework and tell that, okay, I am going to look into this matters. And also there you can do also, and the second thing is, if you are using the theoretical framework, or in this conceptual framework also, you can use lots of theories that which is pertinent towards your own topic, pertinent towards your own research. There what you can do, you can you can do one thing, that there you can find out that what are those different kind of theories which is very relevant to the gender, because once you are doing the study on gender, you are going for studying the lots of literature related to the different feminist theories, different theories relating to the gender, because you should have also at least a textbook knowledge on gender, and textbook knowledge on gender and education. From there you will get the knowledge of, and also you will have a knowledge that sociology of gender, or economics of gender, or political science and gender, means what are your disciplinary background, and how your disciplinary backgrounds have discussed about different kind of gender related theories in your study. And literature people, they have lots of theories on gender in the literature also. So how those theories you can, taking your disciplinary background, what are the, suppose development studies, we have you can find lots of development theories given by lots of peoples. How those theories can be linked, and what are the theories specifically you are going to use, you just give a brief description, and there you narrate while analyzing the data from the field. This theory will be linked, and from the perspective of so and theory, the entire data will be analyzed. Now you got my point or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
So now the very crucial thing is now that methodology. See, under the methodology, what you have to write here, that while we are taking the methodology into account, we have to be very careful. So are you able to see the any writing, what I am writing here?
No, sir.
Are you able to see screen?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Why is that? Tell me. Somebody was telling something?
Not visible.
Visible?
No, sir, no.
I don't understand why it is not visible. BTech student, they are telling, sir, it is visible. For other class, that is visible. For you people, I don't understand. Even Pradhan sir is also facing same problem. We are telling his students are also not. Even his BTech students are also not able to see. Anyhow, so see, anyhow, I don't have any slide to show you now. So I'm just telling out directly. See, methodology is very crucial in your proposal, because you see, generally whenever we send any proposal to anywhere, they see two things. First, they will look into that how relevant is your problem to the contemporary society, and the second thing they will see how effective methodology you have used in your research. And generally, whenever you go to any interview, present something, we are more targeting to the methodology, because until your methodology is clear, you cannot do a better research. So you have to be very careful that what methodology you have to use for this particular research, and how you will use, and how that methodology is relevant to you, and while you are selecting the methodology, you have to justify also that why you have selected so and so methodology, why you have not selected so and so methodology, and why you have selected, and why you have selected the area. That we are going to discuss one by one. While selecting the methodology, and the methodology, the first is you have to write the universe of the study. Universe of the study. So what is that universe of the study? Suppose you are going to make a study, primary study if you are doing, gender and primary education, you can mention that. Okay, my study will be focused on, will be more specifically, my universe of the study, you mention. The present study will be carried out in the state of Jharkhand. However, the present study will confine to so and so district or so and so block of so and so districts in the state of Jharkhand. That you made clear in the universe of the study. Then second thing is the rationale behind selection of the universe. Why you have chosen the specific area of Jharkhand and why you have chosen the Jharkhand, why you have not selected the other states, you have to justify that. How you justify? You can justify that in the, that I don't know, I'm just giving a briefing. You, if you are doing a research, because I have no expertise in all the areas in all the district, states. So what I'm telling, if I'm telling just mechanism, and through that you can justify. If you are doing the Jharkhand, state of Jharkhand, in the rationale behind selection of the universe, means study area, you have to justify that this is the overall scenario of the primary education in the state, in the country. This is the general picture of the gender-based gender equality in the relating to the primary education in the country. And different state-wise, this is the scenario, and this is the scenario in specifically in the state of Jharkhand. So, though there are few states having the similar kind of situation, but I specifically took the Jharkhand because it is a tribal-dominated state. It is having lots of kind of the female population and all, and the literacy is very low. In general, literacy in general the literacy is very low, and specifically in the gender context, the literacy is also very low. So, with all this background, I have taken the Jharkhand as my one of the very area of, or the overall universe of my study. Then once you justify that, again you have to justify that your area of study, even you are not, if you are not going for the entire Jharkhand, if you are going for specific districts, you have to also very carefully discuss that why you have selected so and so district, why you have not selected the other districts. Suppose you have a 20 district, why you have only selecting 2 districts or 3 districts, and if you are selecting the 3 districts, where you are selecting, then you have to be very careful while giving a rationale, giving a justification to that. You can mention that if you are dividing the Jharkhand, you can divide the Jharkhand into different agroclimatic zone. You can, or into very political zone, or into a geographical zone. Based on that, you find out that I will select one district from. Suppose your Jharkhand is divided into three zones. You can tell that one district will be collected from the X zone, one from Y zone, one from Z zone. And also, while selecting that one district from the different zone, there might be 6-7 districts in one zone. Why you have selected the zone, the district X from the zone Y? Getting my point. So that you have to also justify that these are the certain indicators you can use. You can collect the secondary data using certain kind of indicators, the literacy rate, if you are doing on marginal communities, their population size in different locations, district wise, and you can look into the infrastructure. You use certain kind of indicators, and based on the established indicator of human development report and all. So how you judge the human index and all, human development index and all. So from there you can find out 5-6 kind of indicators, and you do the indexing, and from there you justify that okay, these are the districts having the highest or lowest whatever you argue, and from there you give a justification on the basis of this mathematical calculation, on the basis of so and so data, on the basis of so and so primary information, we have selected so and so districts. Means that should be a logical description you have to give for the selection of your district. It is not that you will tell that okay, I am doing the study in the Jharkhand because I am belongs to Jharkhand. I am doing the study in Bhubaneswar because my native town is Bhubaneswar. I am doing the study in Hyderabad because I am from Hyderabad. It is not the justification of giving your argument or that I am from Andhra Pradesh. I have a language problem, so I will do the study in Andhra Pradesh. It is not the proper way. So you have to give some logical description. For the state, you can give in general kind of description, but within the state, if you are going into the very specific districts, location and all, or village, panchayat, whatever, you have to give very logical description for that. Unless not you give, that is not a valid argument. So once your area is fixed, so what to do then? You have to use that. Okay. Once your area is analyzed, you have to go for the source of data. So you'll tell that I'll collect the data from both primary and secondary sources. And from primary data, for collecting the primary data, I have to depend on these are the methods: interview, case study, or PRA techniques I'll use some questionnaire techniques in collecting the primary data. But within the primary data, who will be your stakeholder from where you will collect the information? So you have to be very categorized that I will collect the information from the parents, I will collect the information from the children, I will collect the information from the school teacher, I will collect the information from panchayat sarpanch, I will collect the information from the block level officials, from district level officials, from state level officials. And you have to be very careful who are the stakeholders with whom you are going to interact. Then secondary data you can mention. The secondary data will be collected from the different literature, from the different published government records and the unpublished government records. All this secondary information will be collected. Then you go for the once you then you go for the sampling procedure. From whom you will collect the data? What is the sampling procedure? How to adopt the sampling procedure? What are the sampling procedure you are following? That should be very clearly mentioned. Whether it is a kind of random sampling you are going, whether you are going for multi-stage sampling, whether you are going for stratified random sampling, whether you are going for snowball sampling, all the sampling things should be very clearly mentioned. Once the sampling procedure is mentioned, you are going to go for the sampling size. How many sample will collect? If you are covering more area, you have to be, your sampling should be less. If you are covering less area, your sampling size should be more. So based on your work, you have to select your sample and you have to justify that why you are selecting this one sample size. The sample size should be mathematically justified. There are certain kind of techniques of writing. Well, we will discuss about sample. We will discuss. There are certain kind of mechanism to calculate the sample. You calculate and then write. Then you have to write. Once your all these aspects are over, then you can mention that the data which will be collected from the field will be described using so and so software, so and so techniques, so and so mechanism. Then data will be interpreted, then data will be recorded, and data then report will be analyzed. Then you can, in your proposal, you can write that the outcome of this study, the expected outcome of this study, the significance of the study, the expected outcome of this study, how the study is relevant from the policy perspective, how this study is relevant to the academic theoretical perspective. Then you can go for a tentative chapterization. What will be the chapterization from your proposal? And then you can write the timelines, how many times you will take, and if you are sending to any funding agency, you can give a budget details that what exactly the money you need. So this is exactly, but for generally for our research, for your proposal and all, so if there is no need of writing any budget and all, you have to be close yourself by giving your tentative time schedule. So no need of writing the budget parts. So now anybody is having any doubt on this? Because this is the steps which I discussed of writing a research proposal. Can you now write a proposal?
Sir,
Hello.
I was checking, sir, I have a doubt.
Tell.
Sir, suppose we are collecting a sample from data from a sample. In what circumstances do we need to? Is there any rule that do we need to give the information about from where did I collect the data, or do we need to keep it secret, or are there any rules?
Now you don't worry about that. But that, you see, I'm telling now, all this terminology, all these aspects will be described. See, I will also teach you the art of doing field work. Getting my point? The art of doing field work I will teach you next. And because first you should know that the steps of writing a proposal. Because you should not now jump from proposal to the collection of the data. Getting my point? And while you
Yes.
are writing your methodology and while selecting your area also, you should be very much careful while selecting the area, whether you can conduct your study in that area or not. Because suppose you are working on Naxalism, so you should be very much careful whether I can collect the data from those region or not, whether it is feasible to go there or not, is it possible? And once you will make a time frame, suppose you are working on Naxalism, you will tell that okay, I will complete my studies in 2 months. So then it is, you have to be very careful. So if I go to the Naxal area and once I start interacting with the Naxal may not cooperate. If some bad incident will happen, so it may consume my time also. So while framing the time framework, you should keep some time in your hand, considering some accidental things may happen in the field. Suppose you are collecting, you are working on disaster, and you went to the field when there is no disaster, or you went to the field while there is a serious disaster held, and who will give you data during the time? Nobody will interact with you. You can simply observe the disaster and back. Get my point? So that's why while selecting the area and all these aspects you should keep in your mind. And you are working, suppose on disaster, and you will go to the area where there is no disaster. So that we'll discuss in the later on, that how to do field work, what is the ethics of collecting the information, what is research ethics, all these things we'll discuss, don't worry. So anything related to these steps. Anybody any doubt over this?
Sir,
Or,
yes, sir, good morning. Sir, I have a doubt, like, what is the basic difference between proposal, research proposal and abstract? How do we, like, the steps you said we use similarly for research, writing research paper too. So when comes for proposal and abstract, what are the difference between those two?
see, that is completely different. Abstract for what? Abstract
Yes,
for
sir.
an article? No, no, abstract for what? Abstract for an article, abstract for a
Yes,
book, or abstract for of a proposal?
yes, sir.
No, no, what? Abstract on what?
Sir, for article.
See, abstract on the article is different because you see, once your study is held, then only your abstract and article will come. And if once just, or if you are writing from the theoretical articles, so it has nothing to do with your proposal. You can take the literature review, whatever you have done, the extensive literature review, and you can link to that. You can critically interpret those things and write a research article based on your secondary data, based on your based on your literature, and there you can write a small abstract that the present giving the first 2 lines the narration about the title. Then you can mention that the present paper is based on the secondary information or based on the study conducted on so and so area, and they are using so and so mechanism, methods and tools and techniques, and these are the outcomes. Actually, in the methodology, we are, no, sorry, in the abstract, generally we keep 2-3 things. One is giving a brief introduction about the title or the topics, then you giving a brief introduction about your methodology and objectives, objective and methodology, then you are giving a brief about your finding. These are the steps of writing an abstract. And proposal is something different.
Yes, sir, I got it. Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Hmm? All clear? Deepak, clear? Jasmine, Koloringa, Vaishnavi, clear?
Clear, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. So now if I'll give an assignment, yeah, now I'm giving an assignment to all of you, and you submit me in the next week. You all have submitted your assignment, na?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'm
Yes,
giving
sir.
another assignment to all of you. write a small proposal within a page. Means you select one of your topics on which area you have interest. You just means use this same steps, do one or two literature review, just write within 1.5 page. Within 500 words you can write. You can write or not?
Sir, could you please just repeat it, sir? There was a small cut.
What you can do, I'm just want to see that you are able to write a proposal, because I taught you the steps. So based on this classes, you start writing a small proposal using maximum 500 words and submit me in the next Thursday. I'm giving you 8 days time, and the next Thursday you can submit to the mail. What I'm telling that there, my intention is that you give a proposal of your own interest. You select a small issues, and based on that, suppose we are discussing on gender today. Last two classes we are discussing on gender. You select any particular topic, write the title, give a brief introduction, give one to literature review, write the statement of the problem, give an objective, give a conceptual framework or theoretical framework, write the methodology, then the outcome, then the chapterization, then time frame. These are the steps you use and write a small proposal within 500 words. If somebody can write more also, I don't have an issue, but minimum is 500 words you can write. Clear now? So you start writing a small research proposal, anything you have interest, any issues which you have interest, you can write. Nothing to worry, just it will help you in future that how to write a proposal. And those new two students have joined, please tell them to join the class immediately. You share the code with them and tell them to join the class, all the classes immediately, because you are losing the classes. Hello? Okay, have a nice day. We'll meet tomorrow then. And happy
Sir,
morning to all of you. Happy morning to all of you.
Thank you,
sir,
sir.
when we have to submit the assignment?
You submit next Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.